The perfect smile. They called it the kill zone, though no one outside the Zerati High Command had ever seen it. A barren asteroid field, jagged and unyielding, orbiting a dying sun in the Sharnis sector. Every sensor, stealth probe, and decoy drone had been deployed weeks in advance. Zerati warlords grinned over holographic maps, their six-limbed fingers tracing anticipated trajectories like painters outlining masterpieces of death. They had choreographed it all, the perfect ambush, the flawless trap. By the time the humans arrived, nothing would remain but echoes in the vacuum. And then the humans appeared. Captain Elias Thorne of the Terran Vanguard stood on the bridge of the USS Resolute, sipping his third cup of bitter black coffee. Around him, the officers were tense, grim. Even the AI shipboard systems had registered the Zerati fleet's ambush configuration as unsettling. "All vectors clear?" Thorne asked, tone casual. His eyes flicked to the holomap, where jagged red arcs marked what should have been his annihilation. Lieutenant Mirachin, weapons officer and occasional thorn in his side, smirked. "Sir, if they're expecting us to panic, they'll be disappointed. Sensors show full deployment, 6 carriers, 4 destroyers, 7 minesweeper drones. I'd say, perfectly suicidal." "Good," Thorne said, and that word hung heavy in the bridge like a promise. "Because we didn't come here to die. We came here to dance." The Zerati, over a dozen parsecs away, tensed at their control panels. Their psychic comms vibrated with anticipation. They had analyzed every human tactic from the last 40 years of encounters, boarding maneuvers, planetary sieges, hit-and-run raids. And yet, something about this crew's approach flickered through their sensors as unnatural. Something they could not categorize. The humans jumped the asteroid field with a grin. Literally. Every one of the Resolute's crew, even the rookie cadets, had stickers slapped to their armor reading, "Smile. You're about to die." Thorne himself winked at the camera feed beaming to Zerati reconnaissance drones. It wasn't bravado. It was a statement. By the time the Zerati opened fire, it was already too late. The Resolute split into 5 shadowy tendrils, weaving through the asteroid shards, dodging plasma turrets with terrifying precision. "Evasive patterns Delta 7, Thorne ordered. The ship banking maneuvers weren't in the manual. They were improvisations, deadly and elegant, exploiting gravitational eddies in ways no Zerati had anticipated. Mines meant to trap them detonated harmlessly behind their shields. The humans were not panicking, they were playing. Captain Vortash of the Zerati flagship hissed, mandibles clicking. How are they not dead?" "Prediction failure," his second-in-command rasped. "They're laughing." Not figuratively. Actual laughter echoed through the vacuum-transmitting comm channels, distorted but unmistakable. And with that laughter came the first strike. The Resolute's plasma torpedoes ripped through the leading carrier like paper in a hurricane. Zerati shields flared, then failed, then exploded. The crew watched in disbelief as debris spiraled harmlessly, most of it falling into asteroid crevices rather than hitting other vessels. Thorne's grin was visible on every feed. "See?" he said. "Dancing." It was more than combat. It was performance art. Each salvo, each maneuver, deliberately exaggerated to bait, taunt, and confuse. The humans weren't just surviving, they were teaching a lesson. The Zerati had spent millennia perfecting ambushes. Humans spent millennia improvising disasters. And in that difference, victory quietly brewed. Then came the first surprise. The human destroyer Courage split from the group, its stealth matrix flickering on and off in chaotic pulses. It penetrated deep into the Zerati formation, planting boarding charges on a destroyer without ever being detected. When the Zerati realized, it was already too late. The ship's hull vented violently, and Thorne's voice crackled over the calm. "Surprise, Vortash! Enjoy your evacuation pods, they're for your cousins." Even the rookies on the Resolute cheered. In the heart of an ambush meant to guarantee death, humanity was laughing, taunting, and killing, simultaneously. Vortash seethed. No species should survive this. No species should think this is funny. His species was perfection incarnate, Humans were sloppy, emotional, unpredictable, illogical. And yet, here they were, slicing through an ambush crafted to end them. The humans, meanwhile, were only getting started. The dance of fire. The Zerati fleet was in chaos. Their meticulously plotted ambush had unraveled in minutes, shredded by humans who seemed to defy every law of physics, probability, and common sense. Captain Vortash's 6 arms flailed over his control panel, energy tendrils sparking along his armored forelimbs. Contain them! Block the jump vectors! Seal the trap! But the humans weren't trapped, they were improvising. Thorn leaned over the bridge console, one hand resting casually on the rail, the other tapping a hollow gesture that rearranged tactical schematics faster than any Zerati AI could calculate. Deploy decoy drones. 3 left, 5 right. And pull the old gravity bait maneuver. Let's see them dance to our tune. The Resolute split its squadron again. Smaller vessels darted through asteroid gaps so narrow even Zerati sensors thought them solid rock. Mines designed to shred ships passed harmlessly through the humans, who were already calculating, predicting, and mocking their every move. One destroyer, the Defiant, wove through a lattice of plasma turrets, spinning in a corkscrew motion, and delivered a crippling EMP strike on a carrier. The Zerati shields flickered, then failed entirely, leaving their vessel exposed to a volley of torpedoes that shredded it like wet paper. Over the comms, a human voice rang out, calm, almost casual. Sorry, Vortash, did we ruin your perfect formation? The Zerati commander's mandibles ground in rage. They're speaking. And smiling. That was the next level. Humans weren't panicked, they weren't even angry, they were enjoying themselves. And that enjoyment, that gleeful chaos, was more terrifying than any weapon. Thorn's grin widened. Mira, prep the boarding squads. Full breach on that destroyer. Within minutes, the boarding teams were gone, materializing inside Zerati hulls via stealth pods so small, so fast, the aliens never saw them coming. Explosions echoed through the enemy corridors, and comms picked up distorted Zerati cries of alarm. Thorn's voice cut over the channels again, calm and sharp. Room service. Hope you like hot plasma showers. Meanwhile, the Resolute danced closer to the heart of the ambush. Thorn's plan wasn't just survival, it was retaliation. The humans knew their odds, but that knowledge didn't scare them, it fueled them. They thrived in the chaos, exploiting gaps that no Zerati analyst could have predicted. Every shot fired, every maneuver executed, was both precision and improvisation. Then the twist hit. One Zerati carrier had been holding its position, waiting for the human fleet to fall into a kill box lined with thermonuclear mines. The humans, however, anticipated the anticipation. Thorn's fingers traced a deliberate pattern on the holomap. Let's give them a little incentive. The Resolute and its squadron feigned a retreat, weaving in and out of the asteroid field. Vortash, sensing victory, gave the order to detonate the mines as the humans escaped. But the humans didn't escape, they had already planted their own devices in the asteroid lattice, rigged with magnetic resonance triggers synchronized to the Zerati mine detonators. When the Zerati ships activated their mines, the humans' devices amplified the explosions exponentially. Asteroids erupted like nova fragments, tearing through carriers and destroyers alike. The kill zone became a graveyard, but only for the aliens. The humans slipped through, untouched, their laughter echoing over the comms like a soundtrack of terror. Even Vortash had to pause. The humans hadn't just survived, they had turned his masterpiece of death into their own symphony. And then came the coup de grace. The stealth destroyer Courage, which had disappeared minutes earlier, reappeared behind the flagship. Its boarding pods discharged in rapid succession, embedding human commandos in every vital sector of the vessel. Vortash's psychic signals screamed warnings to his officers, but the humans moved faster than thought. Each strike was surgical, brutal, and merciless. By the time the flagship realized it was under siege from within, hull breaches were everywhere, life support failing, and fire spreading through corridors like a sentient predator. Thorn's voice rang through the flagship's comm systems, distorted but chillingly clear. Ever notice how humans love a surprise? Hope you enjoy your new interior design, it's on us. The Zerati, for the first time in recorded history, faced a species they could not predict, could not outmaneuver, could not intimidate. And that realization was worse than death. Outside, the remaining fleet hesitated. Every human maneuver, every laugh, every calculated chaos move told them one undeniable truth: their prey was no longer afraid. In fact, the humans were hunting them. And Thorn was leading the hunt. The smile that kills. The flagship shuddered violently as human boarding teams tore through corridors like wildfire. Captain Vortash's psychic screams ricocheted through the vessel, a cacophony of panic and disbelief. He could not comprehend it. No species should be able to infiltrate so thoroughly, so efficiently, so gleefully. But humans weren't just efficient, they were terrifyingly creative. Thorn watched the hollow feed of the Zerati flagship, sipping his coffee, his grin widening with every explosion. "Mira," he said, "initiate secondary breach. Let's make sure the message is clear." The message, Thorn explained later to the bridge crew over Calm's laughter, was simple: never underestimate a human, ever again. Courage's stealth pods had already deployed micro-drones inside the flagship's engine cores. Each drone emitted low-frequency pulses designed to destabilize the fusion reactors. Within moments, the flagship's engines began to fluctuate, flickering, groaning, threatening meltdown. Vortash ordered immediate evacuation, but the humans had anticipated even that. Escape pods were jammed, corridors sealed, and hull vents rerouted. "Surprise," Thorn said softly into the mic. Outside, the asteroid field erupted into chaos. Debris collided with retreating Zerati vessels, obliterating stragglers and forcing even the cleverest pilots into blind maneuvers. The humans, however, moved with orchestrated precision, dodging, weaving, and striking with devastating accuracy. Every move seemed reckless, but it wasn't. It was human improvisation at its most brilliant, most horrifying. Inside the flagship, Vortash had done the unthinkable. He tried to negotiate. "Humans! Stand down! We will reward you!" Thorn laughed, a dark, slow chuckle. "Reward? Vortash, you misread us. We don't want your reward. We want your lesson." And then it happened. The Resolute's engineers had rigged the flagship's main bridge with a feedback loop of the ship's own weapon systems. The moment Vortash attempted to fire, the pulse reversed, collapsing the energy through the ship's hull. Corridors became furnaces. Hull plating split. Life support shut down in sections, suffocating panic where the Zerati had hoped for triumph. Thorn's team, already evacuated, watched remotely, enjoying every second of the carefully choreographed chaos. "Beautiful," said Mira Chin, eyes glinting. "Absolutely beautiful." Vortash's final transmission, garbled and shrieking through comm channels, was a mixture of terror, disbelief, and fury. "Humans, impossible, perfection, you!" And then silence. Silence. Outside, the remaining Zerati carriers tried to regroup, only to find themselves cut off by human squadrons converging like predators on every vector. Torpedoes struck with lethal accuracy. Mines triggered by human manipulation detonated in sequence, annihilating entire wings of the alien fleet. By the time any thought of retreat could take hold, the humans had already dictated the terms of engagement. Thorn allowed himself a rare moment of quiet. He looked across his bridge crew, every one of them alive, unscathed, smiling. "This is why humans survive," he thought. "Because we see the battlefield differently. Because we don't just fight, we perform, improvise, and enjoy it." The Zerati survivors were scattered, crippled, and demoralized. The flagship, their symbol of invincibility, was reduced to smoldering wreckage, a monument to human unpredictability. And Vortash, who had prided himself on anticipating every human move, would live only to tell his superiors how he had been utterly outmaneuvered by a species he had thought inferior. Thorn's voice cut through the comms one last time, calm and deadly polite. "Message delivered. Don't forget to smile next time." The humans didn't celebrate. They didn't gloat. They moved efficiently, patching ships, tending to the wounded, preparing for the next sector. But the echo of their victory, the sheer audacity of survival against impossible odds, rippled across the galaxy. Every Zerati pilot, every strategist, every soldier who lived that day would remember. Humans were not just survivors. They were hunters. Improvisers. Chaos incarnate. And they were smiling. Humanity's last laugh. The Zerati were broken. Not merely in body, but in mind. Their flagship lay in smoldering ruins. Their fleet was scattered and crippled. The survivors floated in stunned silence, attempting to reorganize only to discover that every escape route, every rally point, every calculated advantage had been anticipated and nullified by humans. Captain Elias Thorne leaned over the Resolute's console, watching the aftermath unfold across holomaps. Debris, fire, and chaos, a testament not to luck, but to human cunning. "Send a comm," he ordered casually. The broadcast echoed across the void, a simple message, no embellishments, no threats, just humanity's signature style. "We survived." We smiled. "You didn't. Learn it. Remember it. Don't try this again." Every Zerati vessel in range received it. The effect was instantaneous. Mandibles clattered in disbelief. Claws froze over panels. For the first time in recorded history, the Zerati truly feared humanity. And the humans? They went back to work. Repairs, supplies, minor salvaging. No celebrations. No unnecessary delays. Just quiet competence layered with that signature, unnerving confidence that made even veterans shiver. Yet Thorne knew the galaxy was watching. The message wasn't just for the Zerati. It was a demonstration to every empire, every warlord, every sentient species daring to underestimate humanity. Improvisation was lethal. Morale was a weapon. Chaos, carefully executed, was artistry. And humans thrived in all three. Lieutenant Chen appeared beside him, arms crossed, smirking. "They'll never forget this, will they?" "No," Thorne said, watching the last Zerati escape pods drift toward uncertain safety. "And neither will anyone else. That's the point. Humanity doesn't just survive. We teach lessons. We set examples. We remind the galaxy who writes the rules when logic fails." The first contact that had been meant to be annihilation had become a master class in human audacity. Other fleets would hear about it. Planets would whisper it in dark corridors. Alien scientists would recalculate probabilities for centuries, trying to model the unpredictable, laughing, improvising species that had just shredded a perfect ambush. But victory came with its own quiet reflection. Thorne looked at his crew, the ones who had laughed in the void, who had danced through fire and death, who had turned near certain doom into triumph. "We did it," he said softly. "Not just because we're strong. Not just because we're clever. But because we refuse to be afraid. And sometimes," he added with a grin, "that's all it takes to terrify a universe." In the end, the humans didn't gloat. They didn't taunt further. They repaired, they regrouped, and they moved forward, leaving a trail of shattered Zerati arrogance behind them. Every officer, every pilot, every cadet carried the same thought. The galaxy had just learned a harsh truth. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were dangerous. Humans smiled in the face of annihilation. And above all, humans never, ever forgot a lesson. As the Resolute jumped to hyperspace, Thorne glanced at the holodisplay showing the remaining Zerati ships. His grin widened. "Next time," he murmured, "maybe they'll think twice before trying to set the perfect ambush. Or maybe not. Either way, we'll be ready. And we'll be smiling. Because humanity didn't just survive. Humanity thrived. Humanity laughed. Humanity won. And that, as Thorne well knew, was the most terrifying thing of all.